there is still so much to learn about how the sun behaves and the role it plays in controlling the Earth's climate. On Earth, there is an upheaval happening below the surface as volcanoes spew their fury, causing distress and misery for people caught in the crosshairs. On Ambi Island in Vanuatu, the Lambamben volcano, regarded as one of the most dangerous in the world, blasted ash and smoke across the island on March 21st. People returning to their farms and villages found them devastated. Buildings and trees collapsed under the weight of the ashfall, water supplies were contaminated, and food gardens were smothered. The island has been placed on high alert for fear of further eruptions. Meanwhile, a massive crack formed in Kenya's Great Rift Valley on March 19th. The crack is believed to be caused by the movement of the faults. It is 50 feet deep and 65 feet in width. This is a reminder that the African continent is shifting and will likely split into two landmasses. The rift is occurring as the Nubian tectonic plate moves away from the Somalian plate, and the latter will eventually pull the Horn of Africa away from the rest of the continent. It's the second time in 5 years that a crack has opened up at that location in the Rift Valley. As stewards of the earth, it is our responsibility to care for the planet and all life that dwells therein. But when humanity falters in their responsibilities, fails to live up to their commitments, and chooses to live in sanctimonious ways, then the earth becomes restless and responds to our neglect in adverse ways. During the Middle Ages, a series of earth-shattering volcanic eruptions in Iceland caused its people, who were known to worship pagan gods, to turn to Christianity. So why would volcanic activity turn people towards a transcendent God? The answer lies in a prominent medieval poem known as the Völuspá, which predicted that a fiery eruption would eventually lead to the downfall of the pagan gods. Indeed, there is hidden within the collection of Icelandic poems an apocalyptic message that describes how an eruption and meteorological events would mark the end of the pagan gods and the beginning of Christianity for Icelanders. According to historians, in the spring of the year 939 AD, or about 100 years after the Vikings and the Celts had settled in Iceland, a colossal event took place that unleashed 4.8 cubic miles of gushing lava onto Iceland. The event lasted until the autumn of the following year. Historical analysis of events at that time matches medieval chronicles from Ireland, Germany, and Italy, which noted that haze had spread across Europe in the year 939, the same year in which the horrific eruption took place in Iceland. Tree ring data also reveals that in the year 940, the northern hemisphere had one of its coldest summers in the previous 1,500 years, or what is commonly referred to as a year without a summer. The cold shift is consistent with the release of vast amounts of volcanic sulfur into the atmosphere, which coincides with the temperature changes which occurred in the year 940, where temperatures were nearly 4 degrees lower in much of the northern hemisphere. The result of these atmospheric changes were severe winters, drought-ridden summers, the invasion of locusts, and the death of livestock. As uncanny as the events of the 10th century were in the northern hemisphere, they sound strikingly familiar to the events we see unfolding in the 21st century. In the year 1000 AD, a mere 60 years after the colossal Elja eruption, the people of Iceland converted to Christianity, and the Völuspá prediction may have played a major role in their conversion. Part of the poem explains how the sun starts to turn black, land sinks into the sea, the stars scatter from the sky, and the flame flies high against the heaven. Although the Elja eruption occurred some 2 decades prior to the writing of the Völuspá apocalyptic poem, Icelanders who had experienced the ferocious spectacle most likely looked back on the event and wrote this poem with the purpose of stimulating Christian doctrine in the latter half of the 10th century, which finally led to the conversion of Icelanders. Ironically, the predictions of the Völuspá in the year it was written would be fulfilled nearly 4 decades later. It is in essence a narration of the creation and destruction of the world according to Norse philosophy, which makes this a remarkable story about the power of persuasion when nature's fury has dominion over the people. As we look to the sky, there are many spectacles that transcends our understanding of the universe all around us. If we look up, it will be seen. If we fail to do so, the opportunity will pass us by. An unprecedented phenomenon took place over Kelowna, Canada on March 19th, which amazed skywatchers and photographers alike. What they saw was a sunset that caused the horizon to be split in half. It occurred as the sun sank behind the distant terrain. Local meteorologists attempted to explain the phenomenon as a terrain feature, which was blocking part of the sun's rays. But what would be so big that it could hide half of the sun? There is so much that we do not know or understand about the universe and all of its creations. But if we keep looking to the sky, all that is unknown will soon be revealed as we come to understand the true meaning of our existence.